are speaking with Katrina Markoff from Vosges Chocolat. Katrina, I am so excited to speak with you today. I have been a big fan of yours for many, many years. So thank you so much for being generous with your time. It's so great to have you on.
Thanks, Michelle. It's so nice to be with you. I love all of our conversations about intuition and chocolate cakes and everything. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so tell me, what inspired you to start Vosges? Tell us your story.
Really, it was, an evolutionary sort of experience. I grew up in Indiana and Macedonian household. So cooking was at the center of every social affair. And then I had an easy bake oven as a kid, had my own cake business in high school, and started to realize that my shyness was thwarted by baking for people. And it was an icebreaker for me. So it was as I reflect, it was sort of my way of communicating with people. And then I went to Vanderbilt, studied chemistry and psychology, didn't love my degrees, still was drawn to cooking, and essentially went to culinary school in Paris, then decided I'd travel around the world to study food, got back to the States and realized being a chef wasn't the right thing or path for me, and that there was this foodie movement happening in the States, but yet no one was doing anything interesting in chocolate. And I had fallen in love with all of these different cultures and people and traditions as I was traveling, and really wanted to use chocolate as a medium to tell those stories. And so it really kind of came out of, my whole life path as I reflect, and I just kept following my gut or my instincts. And that's how Vosges kind of came to be.
Wow. Wow. Well, you know what? I don't know if we ever talked about this before. I too am from Indiana. I know we met in Chicago,
Oh,
but we'll have to talk about that later.
yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I didn't know. I'm from Fort Wayne. So,
Okay. Yeah.
Northeast.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so tell us the purpose. What would you say is the purpose of Vosges?
The purpose is really to raise consciousness, honestly, to open people's minds up and hearts up, to connect with themselves, to then connect with other people, which is not a typical, chocolate food company's mission, but it's really what drives me and pushes me to do this work.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, you've come up with some amazing creative flavors, and I know we were talking through some of that. So, bacon and chocolate, or red hot chili peppers and chocolate, or wasabi and chocolate. So, tell us, how do you come up with these amazing flavors? It just seems like you continue to churn out all these different and unique and creative flavors with your chocolate. It's amazing.
I mean, it really happens by my creative process is falling in love and getting inspired and connecting to the land from where that love originates. So it's really, really organic in that way. And the story always comes first. It's never like I'm coming up with the recipe. It's always that I want to communicate this sort of experience, and then the ingredients and that flows after, which is why sometimes they're very unique, very different. It's not really for shock value. It's more for how like animating the story.
So you talk about your creative process, which I think is amazing, and I love that you start with falling in love with the story first, and then comes the flavor. Maybe just take one, like for example, wasabi, which was one of the first bars that I had, the dark chocolate and wasabi.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
what was it? What was the story behind that one in particular?
So for that one, it was the first time I ever had a tea ceremony, matcha tea ceremony, and it was incredibly formal. This beautiful woman in traditional attire came, knelt, prepared the matcha, and that whole process, that I had never seen a ritual like that with food. And then as I was exploring wasabi in Japan, it's this rhizome and it's this beautiful green. And I was like, I was tasting it fresh, and actually it was different than I had thought. I thought it was going to be like really, really, really spicy, and actually it wasn't that spicy. I think in America we tend to find it with mustard powder in it, and it can be makes it super, super spicy. And it was like this beautiful aromatic, and I think I just fell in love with like that Japanese simple, respectful, um, and then of course this ritual with food. It just was so intentional. And I wanted to say something about Japan in that way. So that's how that one was sort of born, and black sesame seeds and the
Mhm.
ginger and the wasabi. And then now we have the matcha on it as well. So, that was, and I think I think that moment was so influential to now because I'm doing so many rituals with chocolate that must have somehow been planted with that experience.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That's interesting. What about the bacon one? I have to ask because I would never think bacon
I know,
chocolate,
right?
but it works. It's actually my favorite. I love that's my most favorite
Oh,
bar is the bacon and
mhm.
dark chocolate. I love that.
Yes, well, that was really an homage to my childhood because when my mom would make chocolate chip pancakes and put bacon on the same plate, I used to always dip the bacon in like the sweet parts, the maple syrup and which was probably Aunt Jemima's back then, actually, put something sweet and then in the chocolate too. And and then when I found myself in the chocolate business, I remember I was actually a vegan at the time too. And I was like, oh, this would be so good. It just came into my head. And I was like, well, I have to be true to the story. So I made this bacon and chocolate bar. And then, well, actually, it was a truffle first and then a bar, even while I was a vegan. Then I stopped being a vegan after that. But that was just, yeah, this memory of my childhood doing that
Wow.
dipping. Yeah. And it's so good. Like, I remember also a little whisper a French chef had said to me when I was in Paris working um, at his restaurant. He was like, the key to making great pastries, great desserts is salt because it creates this natural balance and craving to continue that cycle of salty to sweet, salty to sweet.
Oh yeah.
And so when I started Vosges, I put salt in almost every single chocolate we make
Oh
for that purpose.
wow. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. I love salty sweet, but I never would have thought of that. I'm gonna try that then.
Yeah. It's
Interesting.
just like just the smallest amount creates this really beautiful, bright, I don't know if you'd say balance, but I call it craving. It's almost creates this craveability to the taste.
Wow, that is fascinating. I never thought about it, but I think
Yeah.
you're right because a lot of people do crave that, the salty sweet flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, tell me about the vegan piece. You mentioned that, and I know that you guys have some vegan bars out now. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we you know, it didn't actually come from a place of wanting to be per se vegan. It came from a place of like exploring how could we have truffles that had a longer shelf life without using, things I would never want to use like palm oils or preservatives or things like that. And I was reading all the books on compatible fats with chocolate, and they would always just reference things I didn't really wanna use, and so I thought, "Well, why not olive oil? Couldn't olive oil work?" And so we tried it, we tried it, we tried it, and it didn't work, and then one day, I went into the lab, and I took some olive oil and chocolate and tempered the chocolate, and I did this particular process of bringing them together, and it actually emulsified, and it worked, and it had this amazing texture like a ganache and, like, this incredible melt because of the fat, etcetera, and, so that became a thing, and I was like, "Oh, we could make these vegan truffles," and then we just sort of augmented them. We did a collection for the Grateful Dead, and we did a lot of those vegan truffles in there, and then we created this special box of vegan truffles, rolling them in different interesting spices. Like one was red miso powder, one was this really electric blue spirulina kind of algae, matcha. We did a rose and pomegranate one, and then I just kept pushing it further. And then I got connected to a friend of mine who I'd met at TED many, 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 many years ago, way back when we would go to the ones in California. And he is this incredible doctor who wrote a book on how to eat to beat disease. And we always wanted to partner and do something together. And I rang him up and said, let's do something. It's a good time. Let's do it. And so we collaborated on creating these new plant bars that are all 80% cacao and above, leveraging all these incredible food ingredients that create kind of like the perfect, immunity boosters or nutrition boosters for your day through chocolate. And all the research points to the majority of health benefits are coming from cacao at 80% and above. So we created this line of cacao bars 80% and higher, leveraging both some cocoa powder, which has a lot of prebiotic and probiotic effects, some of the cocoa mass from the grinding of the seeds, some cocoa butter, and then interesting ingredients. So like one has chanterelle mushroom and walnut. Fascinating combination, works really, really well. Again, no refined sugars. So we're using either coconut nectar or honey, which was another cool discovery that we were able to figure out how to temper chocolate with honey in it, which I haven't seen done yet. So it actually has a snap to it. And a black fermented tea with black raspberries and blueberries. So we just collaborated on like which ingredients would be best and have the most impact for wellness. So I think there's a raw almond butter, the chanterelle walnut, the whole cacao pod, which is a blend of both the cacao fruit to add the sweetness, and then the cacao pod fiber, which isn't typically used at all. They're usually discarded. And then we have a let's see, the black raspberry and what's the other one that I love? We did this really cool one where we basically, I don't think we added, maybe a touch of honey we added, but not much. And we use licorice root powder, which is really sweet.
Okay.
And you only need like 0.2%, but it was licorice root powder and then Chinese 5-spice, which worked really well. And so they're very uniquely savory, actually. The berry, not as much, but they have more of a savory note, which we do a lot of anyway. So it's a really interesting line. So that's just launching in a couple weeks now.
Yeah. Oh, exciting. Just in time for Valentine's Day.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
Totally.
Well,
Happy Valentine's.
Yeah, happy Valentine's. So I have to admit, Katrina, so every year it's a ritual of mine to pick up one of your beautiful heart-shaped boxes for Valentine's Day. I absolutely love, love, love that purple box. I love the big hat purple boxes too, but the heart shape, it's just so exquisitely beautiful. So talk to us a little bit about, your newest collection, which we'll be launching this Valentine's Day, that entails that same box, but with a different flair.
Yes. Yes. Actually, I have one right here. This is because I've been working on it just to see the packaging.
So well, I ordered the purple box, and then the pink, there's a pink one too. The smaller.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Oh my God. I love it. You're such a fan. So this is really cool. I happen to have these things here. These are really cool collections. Like this is the insert for the big one. It's very Egyptian inspired. And so this is called Estet, and it's the goddess of sensuality, dance, fertility, and protector of women and children. And so she was mused for that box. And the other one was Aset, which is like kind of the mother goddess of Egypt. And we really go deep on the different pantheon of different deities and their their purposes in ancient Egyptian culture, and then the roots of alchemy in Egypt, which is the art of transformation, which is both kind of a science and a spirituality practice. And it's just been so fascinating to study, and how, I really, really relate to alchemy, and I really am an alchemist in my work. It's sort of this idea of translating through the creative process, um, heart, head, and hand into work. And so it's really a deep exploration of that. And all the chocolates are infused with the 528 hertz frequency, which is like this healing. They call it like a miracle frequency, but it just adds a little bit of softness to any sharp notes in the chocolate. So it's really great, especially for the 80% bars. But we're running almost all the chocolates through that sound frequency as they're cooling in the cooling tower. And the way it works is you melt the chocolate to mold it into the different shapes. It runs through the depositors, and then it goes through a cooling tower or cooling tunnel. And in there, the music is basically the sound frequency is going on, and it dwells there for 45 minutes while it goes from liquid state crystallized into a solid state, and then comes out, and it has this like love vibration. So yeah, so it's great for Valentine's Day, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're so creative. I love, as you talk about transformation, and especially, obviously with the pandemic, many people have gone through major transformations. What about you, and what about your business? What do you think, I guess, has inspired you, this past year, or what has made you maybe even had to pivot into different areas that you maybe didn't think you would pivot into?
I think what's been so helpful over the last couple years, having had a lot of life experiences, if you will, and a lot of resistance. And I think the resistance of COVID was a tremendous opportunity to tighten things up, to make harder changes, to um, not give up, and to continue. I remember some of the staff wanted us to like close the entire operation down. And I'm like, why would we do that? Like, food manufacturing was allowed to be running, and it was considered essential. And we were blessed to have that be the case. And we actually were down, tremendously in the second quarter, over 30% down, because we had to close all the stores and the hospitality business wasn't there anymore. But there was this tremendous opportunity with going to a digital first strategy on the e-commerce. And we really took it, focused, and ran. And we were able to grow our internet business, over 100% last year. And it was just it kind of was almost like, to me, a sign of like, okay, let's focus on this. It takes some complexity out of the business for the moment anyway, and have that be the main driver, because really that direct to consumer relationship is the most important, more than, you're not going to build it so much at wholesale. You need to build it directly. And so it just put a lot of focus on that for us. And we ended up having a really good year. We were down in revenue, but we were actually able to make some positive EBITDA, which was incredible considering we hadn't the year prior. So it was a big swing for us. And I feel so excited, because it wasn't, I didn't contract. We really expanded. We didn't, curl up in a ball and say, "Oh my gosh, we all got through it together as a team." And the amazing team. It was great team building, and we were successful, and everybody was doing their part. And it felt so great. It just gave so much energy to the business. It gave me so much energy and purpose. And and through all of that, I personally was going through so many things, and I was putting all of that into my work because it felt right. And I was really just following my gut on that. And so we did all these rituals for self-love, the healer collection, rituals for prosperity, rituals for new beginnings through chocolate, and really leveraging the power of the mind and mindset w- through eating chocolate to deliver on what you want to have happen in your life. And it's been, it's just been so well received. And I'm so excited because I really wanted the company to be that of healing, that of getting people to open their minds and hearts. And so to have such a success and have these collections resonating just feels really win-win, feels really good. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and you talk about the e-commerce perspective and pivoting to digital. I don't know about you, but I feel like this year, of course, folks have had hard times and some catastrophic things happen, no question. But I also feel like it's been a time of inward reflection, and through that, a lot of innovation has happened. And also, you're able to reach so many more people because A, everybody's at home, and B, it's virtual. You don't necessarily always have to get on a plane. So it's kind of opened up some doors in that respect that you've been able to reach more people potentially than maybe you would have otherwise through your boutiques. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been such a fantastic opportunity in so many ways to change consumer patterns of, like, some people didn't trust the internet, and so now people have gotten really good at trusting the internet and ordering things online, and it does save a lot of time. And I think that's been really, really cool. And I think then the challenge is, like, from an innovation perspective, how do you create a sensorial emotional connection online digitally? And we're doing daily these tastings on Zoom tastings, or WebEx tastings, where we take people through the process of guiding them through a sensorial tasting, it's actually way more powerful because they have the chocolate in front of them. You're
Yep.
telling them to close their eyes, take deep breaths, and then, like, do the sensory cues of seeing, hearing, feeling, and tasting this experience, which ultimately brings them into their own intuition, which is just so powerful. So actually, that's been better than I could have ever imagined,
Yeah,
to be able
absolutely.
to
Well,
have that.
yeah, tell us a little bit more about that. So, for our viewers, how would I go about scheduling something like that?
So there's a page on the website that has virtual bespoke tastings, and you basically can see the different ones we have, and then contact us to do one. We've been doing a lot for, like, team building or connecting, or hosted by a particular company for their clients. We've been doing a lot of that, or in lieu of a holiday party, we've been doing those, and people have just really, really loved it because we guide people to taste chocolate in a very different way. It's very slow and piece by piece, and usually we'll do a flight of 3 or 4, and then we can combine it with tea or wine pairings or whiskey pairings, and it makes it really fun and interactive, and again, a great way to connect with yourself through the senses. And yeah, so you can just go on to the website and reach out, and we'll coordinate.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I saw too as part of your collection because obviously I'm a huge fan. So the Dalmore is the whiskey pairing. Is that
Yeah.
right? Talk to us about that.
Oh my God, what a spectacular product and brand and group of people. So we out of this vegan truffle actually came this idea of, can we use this chocolate that has a little bit more shelf life naturally, just olive oil chocolate with whiskey, and then do cool things with bars at, really beautiful mixologist bars, and have them pair with the drinks themselves, through cocktail picks, etc. And so we've been doing some really fun experiences virtually with them, and then we have our own Dalmore truffle box as well that you can get through Reserve Bar with the actual whiskey paired together, or you can buy just the chocolates from us directly. So
Wow.
that's really just awesome. I mean, they have such an incredible variety of styles, and all really interesting, and definitely sipping some beautiful sipping whiskey, and I love to dip my chocolate. I say we're gonna give the chocolate a bath in whiskey, and it's really good
Yeah.
to like dip and taste. So yeah,
That's
so
fun. I love it. You're such a foodie. You're so creative. I also read recently too that when you started, and I think you may have talked about this a little bit earlier, you worked at Il Bulli. Is that correct?
yeah, oh, bully, yeah,
Bulli?
yeah,
Yes. Oh my God.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
That was really spectacular to be there at that time when that wasn't going on in the kitchens in France and anywhere really. I mean, he was such an incredible alchemist, truly, and he was science and art and so much emotion and passion. And I remember also he was very open source, which was unique because chefs kept secrets and recipes on how to do things, but he wasn't like that. He was like, "Oh, show the world, here's how we do it," because it was more than the recipe. And I got that from him so strongly. There was the secret is more than the recipe. It's sort of the energy of the person, of the intention
Yeah.
of what we're trying to do here. And they were truly trying to elevate the mood, the emotion, the experience with consumers in a way that made them so present with themselves. And I just picked that up, and I was so blessed to work with him and his brother Albert and Ferran. I remember he said to me, "Don't waste your time going to work at Michelin three-star restaurants." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, isn't that what I would do?" And he was like, "No, waste of your time. Use your imagination, your palette, and create from there." And
Wow.
I was like, "Okay." And that's when I bought a ticket around the world and I went east for 9 months. But it was just fascinating to be um, with such a thinker. And, he had such an impact on me. And you have to remember, oh, little words can have big impact on people.
Yeah.
And it
For sure.
really did me. It set me ablaze. And that was, um, and that's what I did. So, yeah, he was really
Obvious.
important.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, look at you now. There is from chocolate, there is nothing like Vosges. There's just nothing like it. From everything from the taste, exploring the world through chocolate to the packaging, it's so exquisitely beautiful. And I remember the first time that I saw your product. I think it was in the Peninsula in Chicago there.
Yeah.
I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." But then I also saw it at Whole Foods too, which is it's amazing. So
Right.
tell us about that, like your partnerships. I know you have Whole
Yeah.
Foods and a couple of others.
So essentially, the thought was, can we create a brand that was similar to a fashion house where the couture would be just direct to consumer, just in your own shops, which would be these special collections, super short shelf life, of course. And then could you have, what I would call your makeup line or your sunglasses line going into other places where it wouldn't dilute the brand because there was a need for that from a personal consumption perspective or lower price point entry level. And so that's kind of what we did. And I think where we are now is really just Whole Foods and some specialty retailers. And our focus is truly like creating that experience and that direct connection with, our guests, as we like to say, with the digital first strategy. But then having the bars and only the bars really in those, specialty markets or the Whole Foods in the world. Yeah.
Gotcha,
But
gotcha.
not being a brand that's, everywhere.
Ev
We don't really work everywhere anyway,
Yeah.
price point wise and yeah.
Right, that's right. Wow. So tell us, Katrina, tell us about your corporate gifting program. You know, a lot of our viewers are business leaders. And so if I wanted to, celebrate my team, celebrate a win, and especially going into 2021, and we're getting close to Valentine's Day, you have so many
Yeah,
different options. So tell us about that.
sure. Well, we can do customization easily, whether it's like actually doing a custom print on the box or doing little kind of enclosure cards or attached cards to the ribbon. We can do that as well. And we have such a variety of flavor profiles. Like if there was a particular theme, whether it was, like a Italian theme or French or Spanish or Mexican, we have all these different flavors that could kind of tell that story for people. And 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 then the other thing that we can do is customize ribbon, or if you're going to want to do like a team building event, we'd love to do like virtual experiences for you, where you can send the team just a box of chocolates and we could guide them through with you. Or and then you welcome your team, we do that part, and then there's a close, and it's really fun. It's just a fun thing to just celebrate your team or your best customers. And so that, and yeah, I would say, and of course you can add the wine or the whiskey, do a Dalmore tasting with chocolate. We can get the Dalmore educator, who's incredibly brilliant, come and we do it together. It's just really fun. We did a really cool experience with Davidoff, who does cigars, and Dalmore with the whiskey, and us with the chocolate, did that experience. So all kinds of things can be had. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is amazing. I love, love, love your product. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Of course. Of course. I'm a huge fan. I love Vosges, and I have for years. So it's just such a unique niche brand. And I think, I don't know, for me personally, anytime that I want to make someone feel extra special, or show them that they mean a lot to me, I always, always pick Vosges, always. So I love it.
Thank you. I love it. Appreciate it.
Of course. Well, listen, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate your time. I know you're super busy. So thank you for being so generous with your time. And I look forward to speaking again soon.
Me too. Thanks. Okay. Bye, Michelle. Thanks.
All right.
Bye. Bye.